Yo, what's good everybody? Hope y'all are doing well today. So in this video, I'm going to show y'all how to make a beat for Roddy Ricch's Feed the Streets 3. And this is going to be similar to the tracks of King Size and Blue Cheese. So something similar to like the darker and more synth heavy CUBEATZ sounding beats. And per usual, I'm going to show y'all how to make this beat from scratch. And I'm not going to say too much else, so let's just jump right into the sample. So starting off with the tempo, this is at 156 beats per minute. So a lot of the melody sounds for these types of beats come from Analog Lab and similar type of analog synth type of plugins. So for my first sound, I went to Analog Lab and I got this dark arpeggio preset by this designer, which I can't pronounce the name for. And with this preset, I put in this pattern right here. Overall, the MIDI isn't too complicated. So for starters, I started in the key of D sharp minor. So that's why the bottom note here, or the root note, is D sharp. And then I moved this up to the 5th note in the scale, A sharp, or if you copy these up, it's 7 half steps up. I was mainly just using 4 scale degrees for the top. As you can tell, it's just this first 2 measures and I just copied it over for the remainder of it. So I used G sharp, which is the 4th note in the scale, D sharp, F sharp, and F, which these are the 3rd and 2nd in the scale. So before putting any effects on it, this is what it sounds like. To be completely honest, that's pretty harsh and it doesn't sound too great just yet, but trust the process, it'll round itself out. For the first effect, I put on an EQ and I put a low cut, a high shelf, and a couple of these dips here to cut out the harsher frequencies. Next, I went into Portal and I got the Future preset from Mac Shooter's Waves Crate 1. Then I opened up Shaper Box and I got the Hoodwink preset and I turned off the volume and the mix level knob in the mixer, I set it to about 75%. So with effects, this is what the ARP is starting to sound like. So the sound's a little more cleaned up. We don't have that lower synth sound and it's a little less percussive and harsh on the top end with the ARP. So once I had the effects rounded out, I went to the mixer track here, I armed it, and then I hit Alt R on my keyboard and then set the mode to pattern, cut remainder, and hit start. Once I had that into the playlist, I double clicked on it and I set the mode to stretch. What I did is I selected this time stretch right here and then I just took the pencil tool and put it to half. I went up to the pitch knob and range here. I set the range to 12 and I put it all the way up. So effectively I'm just pitching it up an octave. So once I had the shortened version of it, I took the slice tool and then held shift and left clicked on it. I deleted the first half of the clip and then I duplicated this one over using shift click, and then I double clicked on it again and then turned the pitch down by 200 cents. So the key of this clip is now in C sharp minor. For the effects on this, I put on another EQ, another high and low shelf with some dips to cut out the harsher frequencies. I went to RC20, I put on a little bit of wobble and distortion on it, and then I added some space to add the reverb to make it sound a little more spacey. Then I put in another EQ just to cut out one specific harsh frequency. I went to Effectrix and just put on the reverse. I set the time to 1:1 and then turned the mix down to about 18%. So now this is what it sounds like before I export it again. So using the same method as before, I exported that audio clip and put it into the mixer track here. In the menu here, I changed the mode to stretch, put the declicking mode to generic, and put the pitch up to 100 cents, and then I routed it to another mixer track. I put on yet another EQ on it, just a slight high shelf this time. I put some default fruity chorus on it and set the mix level to about 25%. Lastly, I put some sound goodizer on this section so I can add a little bit of saturation to the sound. And then I rendered that clip out yet again and got the final stem for this. So once I had this one, what I ended up doing is I copied it over using shift click and then I dragged it down to here. I left clicked on the top left and then hit make unique. And then I routed each of these to 2 separate mixer tracks. On this one right here, I went and just put on some default halftime. So it's just a bit of a switch up from the higher top melody. And this is what plays in the intro of the loop. So now moving on to this stem right here. So for this 3rd melody, I went into Analog Lab. I looked up the same designer as the last art preset and I got this lead. In the MIDI, this is what I ended up putting. I just wanted kind of like a simpler counter melody. I was kind of playing around with the pitch a little bit when I originally put it in. So it's in B minor. Eventually I switched it to D minor, but this is what it sounds like before the pitch adjustment. So I routed that to a mixer track and I put on a few effects on it. The first being this parametric EQ. I went to the Lush and Crunch Guitar 2 preset in RC20 and I just turned the distortion and the space up. And then I went into Portal and I got this phasing colors preset from the Experiment Club 1 pack. And similar to the other ones, I rendered it out as an audio clip and put it into the playlist here. So now moving on to the last stem, which is the sub bass. I went and got this bass preset from DB's District Kit. As for this, I just went and put in a pretty simple bass line, of course starting with the root note of D, and then going down to the 6th note, A sharp or 4 half steps down, and then moving this note up by 2 half steps to C or the 7th note in the scale. Once I had all the stems, I arranged the loop and rendered it out as an audio clip. All right, so once I had that rendered out, I opened it up into a new project file where I ended up arranging the stems again, added drums, arranged it, and finished the rest of the beat. As for the drum sounds, I don't think I really had a specific kit. I think for the most part, I just used like a Wheezy drum kit I found on Reddit. For my first drum sound, I got this clap, and I just put this on the 3rd beat of every measure. After grabbing the clap, I got this open hat sound. As you can tell, it's pretty much just a 2-step hi-hat, and I just put in some rolls using the 1/2 step setting and the 1/2 beat setting. I threw some effect tricks on those hi-hats. I went to the 1/4 setting and put some reverse and reverb on it. Next, I got this snare sound. I just put in some basic snare hits and then just put in these rolls here. I believe these are using the 1/3 step snap to grid. Next, I put in these open hats, and this is mainly just to layer with the kicks and the 808s. After the open hats, I put in my 808 pattern. And for this one, I was pretty much only using the root note, and then I just threw in a few of these accents here. For this, I was trying to make like a reverse 808 type of effect. So I just dropped the note down an octave and then put the velocity all the way down. And then I just put this slide up here and slid it into the higher note. And then lastly, I just have my kick pattern, which pretty much is just the 808 copied and pasted in. And then I hit Alt K and then just made it so that only the C5 is highlighted. So instead of the notes being all over the place, they're centralized at C. I cut some of the notes out and some of the accents, and then I also changed the velocities here at the bottom, so it just adds a little extra bounce to it. But overall, this is what the finished beat kind of sounds like. So that's going to wrap it up for me. Thank you for making it this far in the video. If you did, leave any recommendations for me or anything else in the comments. And that's going to do it for me. So I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Roll up, Tess.